Welcome to the Inquisitive Artist. I'm Lindsay Tyson and I'm diving into the lives of artists and art world insiders. How do they create? Can they make a living from the work? And what really goes on behind the scenes? Join me as we explore the realities of life as an artist and the challenges of thriving in the art world. Today I'll be speaking with one of my favourite artists, Dan Cook, known for his beautifully finished abstract artworks. We talk about his career in illustration, the origins of his ideas, and how his art has evolved over the past few years. Hope you enjoy it. I thought it might be nice to talk about the surface and quality of your paintings because, it's something that really struck me when I got mine. Proud owner. Yeah, the surface of your paintings, it looked almost like an ostrich egg sort of shell.
Yeah.
Just perfectly done. It's so professional and highly polished, I would say, in terms of its finish. It's just a beautiful piece of work, and the framing's beautiful, the surface is beautiful, the image is beautiful, and it was just a real pleasure to get one. So I suppose I wanted to ask how important that finish is to you. You seem to me to be quite a perfectionist, and maybe you could just say a little bit more about how you
Well, I'm
approach.
really pleased you were so happy when you
I was
received
very
the piece
happy.
because
Great.
that's great
So
to
it's
hear.
always a scary moment, isn't it, when you send something and you wait for them to.
Yeah, no, and I think that kind of I do think the finish, the texture, the feel, even if you're not going to touch necessarily, but you can see how the light plays, and the texture of that surface. I think it's an important part, and so I've kind of worked quite hard on that
I think
in
you can
trying
you
different
can
methods.
tell that.
So it's nice when someone receives a piece of work from me that they haven't seen in the flesh. So it could be a commission or something that's been put online, and it's important to me to kind of know that there's going to be something a bit extra with the surface,
Yeah.
something that gives a little bit more as well,
It was
than
beautifully
just seeing the
packaged as
digital
well, I
one.
have to say.
Oh, good. Glad of that. I'm glad I got
There was
there. So,
nothing going to affect that, the inside, that's for sure. Yeah, it was
well, that's
belt and
great.
braces. Yeah.
I'm always nervous when pieces are in transit. I don't it until they've hit the ground and got in their home. I'm
Yeah.
always a bit nervous
It
about
must
it.
take you a long time to pack them and create the crates and everything.
Yeah, not it's again it's another thing that I've kind of developed a method for. So um I guess the other thing, um as part of the process, is not just the painting part. It's part of, right, how do there's a logistical and practical thing to kind of build in. So making the wooden boxes and padding them and everything
Yeah.
is part of it. It's I suppose those are one of the things that, one day it'd be
Yeah.
great if I wasn't doing that.
Yeah, get somebody else to do it for you.
Yeah. So,
An assistant.
fingers crossed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that'd be quite spectacular. But um, the framing as well. I I like framing as a kind of a side.
Right.
It's not a hobby. I think it quite often. I think especially with your piece, it's part of the artwork in many ways. So the framing in yours, I think, was what I worked on that quite a lot. I think I waxed it and sanded it down a bit. And again, it's possibly that was me
Part of the
kind of,
picture.
yeah, it's part of the picture. And I think with yours, that was definitely the case. Even from when I was starting to experiment, in the first sort of year or so, the surface was something I really wanted to kind of get right and do some work on, because I think it offers another dimension to how the translucency works with the painting and how the light catches it, because especially when you've got darks and light areas of of the board, how daylight and artificial light works with it can change things quite a lot.
It's
So
quite it's smooth, you know, whereas like my work, there's a lot of texture, I suppose, a lot of
yeah,
ups and downs and you know, you talk about gouging into it, but it's a very smooth surface that on mine anyway. Are they all like that, or and is that
um,
something you aspire to?
they're usually quite smooth. I don't lay on thick and pasta kind of paint scrapes and work in it that way. I'm building up kind of thinner layers generally. I started playing around with kind of beeswax finishing and things like that.
Yeah,
So kind of working because I found traditional varnishes were good in, but I found them a little bit kind of not one dimensional, but I wanted to give it a little bit extra, quite a lot of time where I didn't want anything too shiny or too matte, and so I found satin varnishes weren't quite doing what I wanted them to do as well. So I just started mucking around and mixing things up with
right.
different varnishes, which came up with some pretty bad results.
Yeah,
So testing was essential.
yeah,
But I think beeswax varnishing, I still use quite a lot of that. Depending on the piece, it
yeah,
depends what it needs really. Sometimes, particularly with darker artworks, something a bit glossier, brings out the
yeah.
depth of darkness. There's kind of a bit of a payoff to be had with the finished, because I think also a lot of my work has ended up in places where for the area, the room or the building is being photographed or filmed, for
Right.
example,
Yeah,
and shiny surfaces don't work so
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So I kind of tried various ways of having matte finishes on
And
the
would you build
paint.
up the wax, or do you just have like one finishing layer, or do you build lots of layers of?
I've tried layers of varnish, then a wax layer. Um, I've tried various things. Some of them work, some of them have worked really well, and then I've tried them again and they haven't worked
Yeah,
so well. So I've chiseled things down to some because I don't want to ruin something quite large
yeah, yeah.
at the last parts. I've kind of got to learn um, how the materials work together.
And would you say you're a process person, or is it the image that's more important, or both as much as each other?
Ultimately, I think the image is the most important thing. But I think for my work, because it's kind of it's sort of large negative spaces and abstract kind of shapes. I think I found that I thought the process was really quite important. So um, I think it's been catching a balance of trying to have the energy of the image, the work that you've put in, or or the idea in your mind of how you want the image to appear compositionally and all the colors and everything, but also having a process that does the artwork kind of justice in the fact that if it's quite a large piece in particular, and it's going to be in an important place for somebody,
Mhm.
I want it to be firstly kind of safe for itself, so it's got a good surface to protect the artwork, but also that it offers an extra kind of angle of interest for when you're walking around it or coming at it from a different uh, angle or light.
Yeah.
Because quite often the when I've been working on pieces, um, daylight working um, can produce a completely different look when the
Yeah,
lights come on.
absolutely. Yeah,
And I find that interesting as well.
yeah.
I kind of like that.
Metamerism.
Yeah, and I think the working in the layers of translucent layers and building up those different kind of shades can help them kind of peep through.
I wanted to ask you about your color palette. Where do you find the color? You know, is it just you're just drawn to certain
Yeah.
colors, or do they come from somewhere else?
I'm I'm kind of drawn to sort of umbers and like a Van Dyke brown and things like
Yeah.
that. I can't help myself with that. And so,
Yeah.
but the ideas, or they're not ideas, the images that kind of start to process with me will often have kind of pops of color or kind of peripheral color. I like to have something kind of quite vibrant in the painting, even if it's largely quite a kind of tonally neutral kind of
Mm.
piece. I think not to be just eye-catching for the sake of it, but I think just to give the shapes or the lines a dimension of their own and to um, kind of bring out the feeling or the emotion that I'm trying to kind of conjure up or retrieve from myself. I
Yeah.
use the color for that. And sometimes it's quite sparing. I've just had some pieces have been like a bit more of a blast of color, but I think that's that's just how the piece has come together in my mind, whether it's
Mm.
going to take on those colors in a more meaningful way.
It sounds like you do mostly commissions now. Would that be right? Or do you do a bit of both? Or
I've been taking a lot of commissions recently, and that's from my time has been where a lot of my time's been going. And
right.
those commissions can be private commissions or also through design studios and collaboration with them. So um, commissions will largely come through those sort of channels.
In terms of size, because you work small and large? Does it depend on what somebody wants for the space? How does that work? How
Yeah.
do you decide what size to paint?
Um, when it comes to commissions, I mean, they're generally it's the commissions that have made me go that bit bigger
Yeah.
because that's what's being requested. So it has to be quite specific. So a lot of it's quite right. We're looking for this
Yeah.
specific size, and they've actually pushed my sizes up a bit more. But
Right.
I think my self-directed work, I was upscaling naturally
Yeah.
for what I wanted to do, and I think that was a good process for me because I think what it showed potential clients commissioning was that
Mm.
you can go to a larger scale.
Yeah. Do you
I
enjoy
think,
painting big?
yeah, it's good. I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a challenge because you need more room,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I suppose
especially
because
when
you're quite a draftsman, that
mm,
maybe isn't quite as much of a challenge for you in some ways as for me. I would find that really difficult. Finding getting the composition right on a bigger scale for me, I find really hard. Whereas if
yeah.
you actually have an idea of the shapes and everything, I wanted to ask you a bit more about the composition actually, and how will you go about composition?
I've got my sort of mental processes of where the next piece is sort of coming from, the colors and the energy and what memories are bringing it up for me. And the composition is almost right. How do we turn it into an artwork, I suppose?
Right.
So, and that I work out beforehand. So I, before getting the board ready and having it in front of me, I've sort of sketched a few things out, or not even that much. If I'm quite clear about what I want to kind of
Mm.
have in front of me, I will pretty much know what I'm aiming at first. I can spend quite a long time working out the composition, but I think it's something that I really want to know before I start
Right.
painting or putting the pencil on the actual artboard because I think um, I can do that first. I don't see it as an advantage for me anyway,
Mm.
working it out in front of me.
Yeah.
And I can tweak it there. I can because on when something goes to a larger scale, you might be thinking actually that doesn't quite work the same way, but I generally have worked it out first, and I think the composition from where I'm bringing the painting from, that's not the first thing it's not the important genesis of it.
So what's the
It's really,
important?
it's kind of like I said, traffic jam earlier, I think. It's kind of, it's, it's seeing what's becoming urgent to me that I want to get out. And it's generally old sensations and feelings that remind me of something.
When you say
Um,
urgent, what is it that makes it urgent?
I feel like I've bottled things up for too long, perhaps.
Mm,
That there's things. It's kind of a release for me, I think.
yeah.
That and I think that's why it's sort of fragmented. These could be sort of things that have been, from a long time ago for me, and they're just ways of me translating that, and not bad things, traumatic things, or
Yeah.
necessarily joyous things. Just moments that have kind of stuck with me, and I want to translate them in some way.
Mm.
Um, and I think that before I think of a composition for those things, I'm kind of thinking, right, what? Because just looking at a particular shape um, or a shadow or an umbra of something can remind me of something or evoke something from my past or something
Mm.
in the present as well for me. And where that's what I want to capture most of all.
Are they symbolic at all, or are they just expressions? Not
They could
just
be, yeah, they could be more symbolic than I give them kind of
credit.
credit for. They could be from things that um, have had a bigger impact on me than I kind of realize. But they're also just I kind of feel like when something has materialized in my head or given itself some form, it's not going to be there for very long. And so I think I want to. It's something I want to start giving a body to before it's sort of.
Do you sort of wake up in the morning then and think, right, this is what I've got to paint this today?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a bit. It's probably an overused thing, but a subconscious. When you wake up, even just like from a doze or something, or wake
Yeah,
up in the morning, there's this thing there that and that does happen for me a lot.
yeah.
Where I've
I
been
find that
thinking about something.
fascinating because, yeah, mine, I just have to start and see what happens, whereas yours is so sort of pre-planned in a way, pre-formed. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I think that's generally there's always going to be something there for me. I think the urgency comes from it not becoming loud enough and disappearing
Yeah.
or moving further
Do you ever
down.
worry you won't have anything to paint?
Um,
You run out of ideas?
no, not yet. Haven't I can't see that yet. I've got there's still I think the I'll always have something there. The thing that is maybe a concern is that there'll be lots of things that won't get their chance.
Do you ever
And
feel, because obviously being commissioned and you're quite in demand, do you feel like it's becoming more of a job and a chore, or is it always just that beauty of expressing yourself?
no, I think I'm really grateful, I think, to think of it. I'm not sure I'd even call it a job. Certainly not a chore. I think I'm really lucky that I've been able to get so much done, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without people taking an interest in it.
Yes. Well, I suppose we
Mhm.
need to talk about that, don't we? How
Yeah,
you got found, I suppose, or how it all took
yeah.
off. So, how long would you say you've actually been painting?
I think I started. I'd put it down to sort of 4.5 years ago, when I actually just I found that right now's the time where I need to invest in doing something
Y-
about it.
Yeah.
Where actually creating artworks that were coming from me rather than from somewhere
So
else.
you'd sort of it
Um,
been building, and then one day you thought, right, now I've got to just
and now I've
do
just
something
got to,
about it.
yeah, get on with it. And I think that was about 4.5 years
And was
ago.
that COVID or was that after?
It was
After.
kind of around and about COVID, and I
Mm,
think although I was sort of preparing to do it, I think there was that massive change, um, and things changed for us in terms of just my structure changed because I think what I do need a structure, and I've always needed one, and that structure has been creating an income for my family,
Yeah.
and the kids getting older and keeping a
How
house
old are
and
your kids
blah, blah.
now?
So James is doing his A levels now,
Wow.
and Rex is he's in year 9. So I mean he's 12 now, so he's about to turn
Yeah.
teenager pretty soon. So that I don't know when that
Are they
happens.
artistic? Do they like painting?
Um, Rex does.
Yeah.
James is more music, I think,
Right.
out of the two things. But
Yeah.
that time went so fast. I don't know how they've got to
Yeah. Yeah.
where they're at now. But I guess all of that structure kind of I had to shift it into something else, and the time was right for me to do it. So
Mm.
I started producing artworks. I've had, as I still have, I had lots of ideas I wanted to get out. Too many ideas, really.
Mm.
I don't. Ideas is the wrong word. Um, Thoughts, things,
Yes.
stuff. And so I just started. I invested in some painting materials, cleared out a space to start doing it, and just started getting these things out. And so at that point, in terms of being found, it was social media really,
Mm. So
because
did you just then think, right, I've got some paintings, let's get on Instagram? How did that
yeah,
happen?
I've never been anywhere near social media, to
Yeah.
be honest. And so I set up an account and posted some of my first efforts on there, or first efforts being, completed sort of things that I thought, well, that's kind of what I intended,
Mm.
and um, it's presentable, and someone might be interested. So
Yeah.
I put them up there, and it was really quick. It was really instant kind of interest in them, and I
Yeah.
didn't really know what to make of that because I hadn't ever been on social media before, and I'm still not really because I only really use it for as a record for my work, and now engaging with people, having chats with people about my work, and that's why I'm on there using that.
Mm.
But without it just seemed like a bit of a no-brainer for me to do it that
Yeah.
way, because I didn't have any contacts outside of that. I hadn't come out fresh out of art college or anything, so that's not how I started doing it.
So it's
So I
been
was,
quite an important part of your career being on there.
yeah, I think so,
Do you
because
think you would have got to where you are now without it?
no, that's not to say I might not have found another way,
Mm.
because once I'd had a few artworks, I was gonna do something,
Yeah.
and I think all I found was that was really easy and instant,
Yeah. Did
rather
you
than,
sorry to interrupt.
sorry.
Did galleries approach you through Instagram, or did you actually approach any other galleries, or
I've never approached a gallery.
right.
I think I've been approached, and that happened really early on as well.
Yeah.
Um,
We're all
and
very jealous when we look there.
no, I'm lucky, I think, and just uh, I'm grateful for that it happened so fast that
Mm.
way, because I think I didn't have any time to lose momentum, or kind of I'm always got plenty of self-doubt about things, and
Yeah.
how it's all going, but I think that didn't give me time to stop and breathe with it,
Yeah.
which is good and bad, I think,
Mm.
but mostly good.
Yeah.
But I think what it meant was that I had to keep going. There was no kind of turning back, really.
Yeah. And are you
Um,
represented by certain galleries?
yes, I still have some representation, and I've had a great time with the galleries
Yeah.
that I've
Yeah.
worked with, and they've been fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, and social media helped them find me, helped
Yeah.
me find, well, find them or put my
Yeah.
work out there.
And do you
And
sell directly from Instagram as well?
yeah,
Yeah.
so first of all, I was I was being contacted by people privately, really, and
Yeah.
started kind of selling work straight away. So I was lucky in that regard, and because there's such a range of people and businesses on the platforms now that
Mm.
you there are interior designers and
Mm.
other kind of businesses and collaborations that get hooked up
Do you think it's
through it.
important to have a gallery? Be part, be represented?
I really don't know. I think I haven't had enough experience to say whether it's the right thing, the wrong thing.
I was just
Uh,
thinking because you can sell directly quite well, if it's worth,
yeah,
because obviously they take quite high commission and everything. If you could just do it directly, if that would be a better way or
yeah.
not.
I think you gotta. The way I see it is that the galleries they get my stuff up on a wall.
Yeah.
I mean that's really important. So
Mm.
what I can't do from where I am, people do visit, but I'm so far down
Yeah. I know you're too far
in the
away.
yeah too far down the southwest that footfall isn't going to be my thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not part of an art community either.
Mm.
I'm not part of a scene or anything. I'm really
Mm.
quite isolated, and that's partly me, partly how it's all happened.
Mm.
Um, so galleries galleries present your work to people, and they get to see it face to face, which is important. In terms of like, it's difficult for me to kind of impart any wisdom or advise on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think you you got to see how it's working for you if you're
Mm.
still able to do um, the work that you want to do. And that depends on why you produce artwork,
Mm.
why I produce artwork. Why do you really want to do it anyway?
Mm.
What's your ambition here? And I found that with the social media platform, it does introduce you to a range of different ways of getting your work out there.
Mm.
And for me, it's the structure of having to produce an income and things
Yeah.
like that it's important. It's as soon as you introduce that into producing personal artworks or creating messages that you think are important, or something you want to translate from yourself to other people, you're already coming up against a compromise somewhere
Yeah.
in that you don't want to have to think about making money from it, and you
Mm.
don't want to think about what happens next month necessarily. But that's
But yeah,
that's the
it's life.
reality.
Yeah.
That's life, and I've been used to working like that for years.
Mm. Yeah.
Working remotely under my own steam. So changing into changing my angle into how I produce this artwork. Practically, it wasn't a massive change for me.
Mm.
I kind
Just a
of
different focus, I suppose, different view.
yeah, it's a different angle
Yeah.
for me.
With your Instagram, do you take a lot of time and effort making sure it looks really nice? Do you
Um,
are you very careful with what you post?
I'm careful in that I don't post unless I kind of think
Is it
there's
usually a
a point
finished?
to it.
Yeah, you do have some process images, don't you?
Yeah,
Mm.
there's a few process things, and I think I like putting up a few process things, but largely kind of finished pieces, so that there's a kind of an active a record for people to look at and find my work. And I do enjoy having little chats with people who express an interest. It's still gratifying for me. It's still quite exciting to know
Yeah.
that people are interested and want to
Yeah.
talk to you.
I
And
suppose that's one of the main reasons for selling your work, isn't it? I get a big kick out of selling my
yeah,
painting.
yeah. Yeah, it'd be lying if that wasn't
Yeah.
it
I was
wasn't
gonna
a big part of it.
I mean, it's a little bit off on a tangent, but would you say you're addicted to painting? Addicted to art? Would you get
It's
withdrawal symptoms if you couldn't do it?
it's more of a compulsion, I guess. I
Right.
think it's something that I have to. It's going to happen
Yeah.
one way or another. There's no going back now. There are going to be more challenges ahead. I've been lucky so far in the short period of time that I've been producing and selling this work, but there will be challenges, and things are already changing a lot
Right.
around us. And as long as I'm being versatile and keeping focus and disciplined, then I'm not going to stop producing work. I do have to keep finding money.
Yeah. In terms of your day, how many hours would you spend painting? Would you, if you got a routine?
I do have a routine. I think the thing with it is a lot of it is not painting.
Right.
A lot of it is preparing and getting the boards ready and lots of other things around it.
Mm.
But it's a long day. I've never worked so hard. I've always worked hard,
Yeah.
but
Of course
I've
you have.
never worked as hard as this. I don't have to go anywhere, which
So your
is
studio's in your house.
it's what was the garage.
Right. Okay.
So it's a studio.
Yeah.
It's a studio now.
Yeah.
Um,
Is it
but
heated?
sort of, not very well. I've got to keep it at a certain temperature just for all the materials and all that
Right.
sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because especially down here, it's quite because it's such a maritime kind of surrounded by the seas.
Yeah. Yeah.
This far down that you've got to keep on top of the moisture
Mm.
and it's cool. I whinge quite a bit about not having enough space, especially
Would you
if
consider
there's.
getting a studio outside the home?
I've thought about it a lot, and I like being on site with the
Yeah.
family
Yeah.
and the house and the cats and everything.
Yeah.
I think I'd find that. I
Yeah.
think I'd find it difficult being away so long because if I had a studio elsewhere, I'd be I'd have to be in there all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think I'd find that quite hard. That might again be a good thing.
Mm.
Having the workspace here at home, loads of distractions,
Yeah.
but sometimes that's helpful. If I need to be in here, I'll be in here. But sometimes I need to kind of step out to let something dry or cure or something
Yeah.
for a bit, or just step out and keep moving and do something else
Yeah.
for a moment. So that's why I'd be kind of most reluctant to kind of move somewhere else with the work. The other thing with the space, I guess, is I do moan about not having enough space, but I think until the point that it's a real problem, it'd be kind of right, take the leap into this bigger space, this
Yeah.
bigger investment. And perhaps that will come and it will be a good thing for
Mm.
me. But I think this is working for now. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna mess
I'd
around with
like a
it.
bigger space. I mean, mine's quite a good sized studio, but
Yeah, very
and from
good.
a yeah, huge. But when you start working bigger, it's where do you put, it's storage. Where do you put your
Yeah.
paintings? There's not enough wall space to hang them all,
No.
and I've got a cupboard which is full of stuff already. I just accumulate stuff, so I've never have enough room for.
No, there never would be anyway, I don't think. I mean,
But I'm very
I've
lucky
spread
here. It's
over
a
the house.
beautiful, beautiful place. Yeah, I
Yeah.
practically live here. I could live here quite easily.
Get a mattress on the floor.
Yeah. What was my studio at home ended up being my son's bedroom. So I had to move out really. I didn't have anywhere else to do it. So I had a
Yeah.
studio for quite a while when I was designing. And then when I turned to painting, it was just, I'd already got the space. So it was quite a natural thing to do.
Yeah. Good.
So I didn't ask you if any other artists influenced you or if you've got a favourite artist yourself.
One artist is sort of a big name. Alberto Giacometti was
Oh,
important
yeah.
to me. I think he's endured for me in how his work has
Does he
affected.
paint as well? And I remember him for sculpture, do I?
Yeah, sculpture, and it's the sculpting and the portrait kind of drafting that I was always drawn to. I think particularly with these well-known sculptures, like the Leaning Man and the really fine sort of
Yeah.
bronzed work sculptures. I
Yeah.
think it's lasted for me and shows in my work. I think the fact that without that negative space that's around those sort of tight focal points,
Mm.
you don't have anything without the negative in a way. I mean,
Mm.
those small positive moments or focuses of tension and emotion. I always found that interesting about how that open space affected the actual energy, the bit that was worked on in such a fine way. He was a draftsman with lots of linear line and with his portraiture, and how it condensed into smaller parts of the painting into lots of energy and tension. I think it was the tension I got out of.
I think your
work.
paintings definitely have a tension to them.
Yeah,
Something I'm quite
I
envious of. I'm not sure it's something I can do very well, but it's something I aspire to.
well, it's a different. It's whatever creates tension for you, I guess. But I think you're right. I like that you say that, because I think I probably subconsciously enjoy a little bit of, or I kind of caught that tension a little bit, and I think it's maybe with the largest masses of shape and things.
Yeah.
When
Just the way
yeah,
how they hang together and how they touch each other or don't touch each other. There's this tension
yeah,
within the shapes, isn't there? I love
yeah.
that.
It's because it's a kind of a communication, I think, and I think you can do a lot with just some very basic kind of shapes and linear kind of line work and
So when you
things like
start
that.
painting, do you actually sort of meditate on a feeling or anything? Or does it just come out
Um,
because you've got a plan, so you just execute it?
I think the plan. I think as it comes out on the paint, I do have the plan, and then I think it's during the process I probably that sort of tensions get introduced into it, especially with the larger scale pieces. I don't think a sketch sometimes translates that for me until I've done it in a larger way. But I think that's part of my process of actually doing the painting, creating the final piece. That um, I I think when it's not right, it's because it's lacking those things for me, and then I do a bit of extra work on it if necessary, and that's probably more just changing tones or defining a line a little bit more immediately changes or adds attention.
Yeah,
Sometimes
small
it works.
adjustment can make a huge difference.
Yeah, just little things.
I was going to ask you if you had any advice for aspiring artists.
Um, avoid taking advice.
Yeah,
I
that's a good
reckon.
one.
Unless someone giving advice knows why you're doing what you're doing and what it's for, what your inner real ambitions are for it, I think advice can be quite distracting. So don't take that as advice. My experience that I've had over a short period of time with this, I wouldn't suggest at all that I have made smart moves or done things in the best possible way, or still do. I think I feel grateful that I'm still able to keep going and keep busy. I've probably made far too many mistakes.
But you learn by those, don't
Decisions.
you? So it's
Yeah, you learn by them.
and all artists are different. Everybody's path's different, isn't it? You
Exactly.
can't just follow a route, can you? Because we all have different
Yeah,
opportunities and different
yeah,
ways of working. I think if you're true to yourself and follow your instinct, I think quite often it's quite
yeah.
yeah.
I don't really visit and absorb too much other art. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I think it's working for me
Yeah,
to
I
kind
think
of
I'm very
say.
similar to that, and I actually find it hard to retain, especially with my age, retain stuff. So,
No,
I've got the
I've
memory
had,
of a gnat.
yeah, and I think memory is probably where my work kind of comes from. Is I find it hard to retain a lot of stuff. So
Yeah,
I think academic style studying for me seems such a kind of far away point that
yeah,
these sort
it
of
is for me.
fragmented imagery and things that I have flying around in my head is probably my best way of kind of translating, which is where it kind of comes from for me, a
Yeah, well,
way
it's
of
working,
processing.
whatever it is.
Well, it's in some ways, so that's
Yeah.
good.
Thanks for listening. Join us next time for another fascinating glimpse into the life of an artist. And if you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment or share. It really helps get the word out and grow the community. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. See you next time.